building a business or being a solopreneur is good and all, and it can be good income and everything, but it's not really, it's different than building a company.
You help them figure what they want out of life, but you know everything can come with a price. Want to maximize your money and time, might have to take the uncommon advice.
All right, back at it. Another episode of Uncommon Advice. Pretty excited for today's episode. We're going to talk about some cool stuff. We're going to get into some growth strategies today and talk about the solopreneur environment that's going down and some other cool things. So now that you're back.
Oh, I'm happy. Very happy to be back. Second episode back after beating the Rona, you could say. But no, I'm happy to record this. Nate leaves me here for a bit, going to the beautiful island of Hawaii. Leave tomorrow, so
yeah, heading out, going to spend time with family. I got my parents live out there, as you know. My parents live out there. My grandpa lives out there. My sisters, my niece and nephews. So we'll be on Oahu and Kauai. A few days on Oahu, a few days of Kauai, and we head back, and then football season starts.
So you used to surf. I remember back in one of the beginning episodes, you said you used to surf. Are you going to surf?
So last time I was out there, we went surfing. So my parents got a nice little mellow longboard wave by their place. So I'll surf that kind of stuff. But when it gets into the big waves and out on the North Shore and stuff like that, absolutely not. I won't get in the water.
Are those days over, or did you used to do that?
No, I never went out there. It's a whole different animal out there on the North Shore, man. Totally different animal. And there's a lot of times, man, there's people who think they're good at surfing, and then they go to the North Shore where the pros are at, and the locals grow up surfing. And they end up, throwing them out of the water because they don't want to save lives. They want to go out there and surf. They don't want to pull dead bodies out of the water. So.
Exactly.
So no, I don't surf out there. I've done all my surfing in, the Outer Banks, East Coast wise, most of it, Costa Rica, some in Hawaii, and then California.
Okay. Do the kids? Do they get on the board?
So Caden and Lydia surfed last time. Caden had a blast. He enjoyed it. Lydia did well with it. So Caden was the one that wanted to keep going out. So
that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Get some more time out there.
Yeah, I bet you guys have some fun adventures planned in the beautiful island of Hawaii.
That's right.
Well, let's kick it off.
Let's talk about the rise of the solopreneur. Okay, so solopreneurs are popping up more and more. I've got an interesting take on it that I'll get into it here in a little bit, but more and more solopreneurs are happening. So let's go. Let's talk.
Well, statistically, women solopreneurs are bigger than men, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Which I can see because women's there's women's that when they stay home. You have those what they call stay-at-home moms. They start those companies of I've seen some making bags or doing something in the cooking world or stuff like that. So I can see that being in it. And probably some of them have had success and grown to build some really successful companies. But I was very surprised to see it, but once I thought about it, it made more sense to me.
Yeah, the solopreneur in themselves is somebody who's just kind of running a business. They don't want employees. They don't usually have an office space, or they might go to a community space and work from, right? So, and what you're saying here is that percentage, right? So the breakdown, 54.4% of solopreneurs are female and 45% are male. So, speaking of platforms, right? So platforms have made it easy. If you go things like Etsy, things like Upwork, these platforms allow you to go build a business to be a solopreneur.
Correct.
Now, and then what they say is not all solopreneurs make money, but another stat here is, as we're looking at, is 20% of solopreneurs earn $100,000 to $300,000 a year without needing to hire staff.
And that's not bad.
So no, that's good. It's good money, but it's still a lot of it trading time for dollars and some of that solopreneur stuff. So I want to get into my take on it. I think I've been a solopreneur. I think that building a business or being a solopreneur is good and all, and it can be good income and everything, but it's not really, it's different ting building a company, right? So for here, we're building a team of people. We're building a culture. We're growing a bigger business, something. Being a solopreneur puts you in a position, not really, in my opinion, to have something that's exit. You're trading time for dollars. You might and rather trade those time for dollars than you would at a corporation, right?
Correct.
So there is freedom to it and things like that. But as a solopreneur, a lot of times, if a lot of these solopreneurs, now not all cases, but a lot of times, if they're not working, they're not earning. So you become a high paid employee of your own company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And since you don't have other people to work and help you and work with you. So solopreneur can be great for the right people, but it's not the same as building a business. And I think a lot of people believe it's the same as building a business. So I just want to kind of.
So you said you've done it before. Did you do it? Was this before the mortgage company, or was this after where you went into the solopreneur?
So this was after the mortgage company that I was a solopreneur. So I basically was building products, sites, sending emails, and all that stuff, right? When I got into the online world, and there tends to be a lot of online solopreneurs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're making money from the digital age.
Correct.
So I think and creators are solopreneurs, right? Influencers can be solopreneurs. So there's a lot that goes into it, and that it was more so outside of the mortgage company. Mortgage company, I have a bunch of people.
That's what I was going to say.
Offices, people.
What was the
That
difference?
business didn't really lend to that.
Yeah, but what was the difference? Like, you went from working with a team. You said you have about 25 employees. You're probably always in communication with them, but then that all goes away, and you're all by yourself. You're on an island alone. Did that have any effect on you, or was it a pretty easy transition?
So for me as an introvert, it was easy. I was good. But there is a challenge to it, right? So working by yourself with no one to kind of pump ideas off of can be a challenge sometimes. But that's when I started discovering masterminds and the value of being around other entrepreneurs. So solopreneurs, definitely get around a room of people that are doing stuff similar to you, so you kind of eliminate that loneliness, right? So sometimes solopreneur or entrepreneur, there's a lot of times people don't understand you. Like, why are you doing that?
Gotcha.
So you can get into a room with people mastermind allows you to get into a room with people that do understand you and are there to help you.
Yeah, and I was also looking into it. So solopreneurs, so I think there's more solopreneurs over the age of 35 than there is younger than 34, which I see why, because you go out there, you work in the real world, you'll say, right, you go to the corporate or you do what you have to do. You've learned a couple things and you're like, well, I want to try to do this now on my own. Like, how do I get this on my own? Where the younger people might be a little more held back on taking that first step or taking the risk of becoming a solo entrepreneur to become an entrepreneur and all that stuff. So I see it, but I think there's I think in the last couple of, I would say even this year alone, I've seen a lot of younger people have stepped into the role of becoming solo entrepreneurs in regards to building relationships. I think that's one big way. The younger 20, 21, 23, 24, right? You don't, unless mom and dad cut you a check for $500K and say, hey, Johnny, go start your own company or go do what you got to do. Basically, relationships is what's going to help you grow there. Like you said, the mastermind groups, getting into those kind of things, like you have for the $1 million audiences.
Yeah.
There you go.
Which right there in itself, right? So if you want to be a solopreneur and not build a team and do your thing, like it's time freedom is great. Financial freedom is there. If you build it right. And one way that you can actually scale as a solopreneur is in the newsletter business. So there's quite a few newsletter businesses. I was just reading a write-up recently of 10 actually newsletter companies that do over $1 million a year with one person. So you can grow more than that average person that's doing 100, that 20% is doing 100,000 to 300,000. And the newsletter business kind of makes that possible to do. So absolutely. That's why we call it $1 million newsletters as well, right? Because you can build that business, build that newsletter, run it yourself. When we first launched the Click Movement part of our brand, I literally ran that whole thing myself. I was a solopreneur again after getting rid of the agency and running that entire business from start to finish on a daily basis, spending about 2-3 hours a day running it and managing it. And we got up to over $100,000 in revenue pretty quick of just me running it. So it's definitely a doable thing. And newsletters just makes it easier. And newsletters is one of those things where you can be anywhere in the country or in the world. As long as you got an internet connection, you can actually run it.
So Nate has a great group that he started on Facebook. Nate, what's the name of the group again?
$1 million newsletters.
Yeah, it's absolutely free. He's giving great knowledge. I think he's up. You're close to 200 already people on it.
Yeah, it's growing organically with people coming in and starting to share it and look at the value and appreciate it. And engagement's up right now, so it's been good. Yeah,
so you have a lot of engagement. So Nate, going into it, I don't want you to give too much because I want people to join the group. That's where you're going to get valuable information. What if there's two things someone needs to become a solo solar entrepreneur in the newsletter world, what would you recommend them to do?
So number one is I would set up a platform that allows you to build a newsletter. So I'll tell you what, I would use Beehive, simplicity-wise. And from there, you have to pick a niche and a topic that you want to be involved in.
Okay.
Right? That you can actually either be a curator or a creator in regards to building that newsletter. Jump in a group. It's a Facebook group. It's $1 Million Newsletters. I've got all that stuff broken down and in value posts, dropping all that information, breaking these differences down. And if you want to go and check out Beehive, do me a favor, use natekennedy.com/Beehive. We'll actually put it in the description in here for you to check out and click over there. So, we get paid a little fee if you do sign up over there. So if you heard it from us, hook us up. It don't cost you anymore. Just hooks us up.
It's not like you're going to get a discount just going direct with them.
Yeah. So
what would you say is the second thing?
that is it.
A laptop?
Yeah,
you need a laptop?
Yeah, you need a laptop. That's true. Unless you want to go to the library.
Laptop, internet?
Yeah.
We'll get the job done.
So when I first started doing the newsletter business back in 2009, I literally would go sometimes to I'd go to, I'd literally work from a coffee shop, right?
Mm-hmm.
And do different stuff. And there's times that I remember being at not a coffee shop, but like a place just to connect into internet. You know what I mean? So a lot of different places that you can do it at. But yeah, I mean, you need a laptop so you don't have to carry your desktop with you everywhere. And so there's a third thing. You do need an internet connection.
Yeah, that's very important, huh? To be able to get into Beehive.
But yeah, so solopreneur. I mean, I think it's a growing segment and population of people. The key is eventually you're going to want to go from, you might have that desire to go from solopreneur to entrepreneur. And entrepreneur, you're going to kind of, there is a difference to me. Solopreneur, you're kind of operating yourself. Entrepreneur, you're building a business, you're building a team, you're building something that's sellable, right, down the road.
If you could pick, now you're an entrepreneur, you have a team around you and stuff, but if you could pick either or, which one would you go with?
Oh, I'd do what we do now.
Okay.
But it all depends on what phase we are in our careers and our business and
Gotcha.
where we're at in our journey. So depending on where you're at in your journey is going to determine kind of what you're doing. Because I was a solopreneur at different points in times along the way. When I started the Click Movement brand, I literally was a solopreneur running that thing until we started building a team around it. So your journey might start as a solopreneur, and then you might go, oh, we can expand this and grow this and bring out some more people.
That's awesome.
So it's evolution.
Little by little, right? It's all little by little.
So let's jump in. Speaking of newsletters, I want to talk about a question I get quite often and a handful of people have asked in the group, and what types of different growth strategies, if I were to start my own newsletter, what's the type of different growth strategies I would use going forward. So I want to talk a little bit about organic versus paid, right? So the two growth strategies, I just posted about it in the group. There's two different ways. You have organic, which is time that you're putting in, and then there's paid, which is running ads and everything else to accelerate. So the only difference between the two, you can grow a newsletter both ways. The only difference between the two is the speed at which your audience grows, right? And your newsletter subscribers grow.
I mean, so we have a great example. Sports spread yesterday.
Oh yeah,
sports spread that killed. I think we were doing a test run. I think we threw very minimal budget. I think it was like $20, and I woke up this day. We're ready. What was it?
Yeah, so we're getting subscribers for what's costing us 17 cents a link click, and I think our subscribers are probably right around 50, 60 cents, right? So that's speed, right? As opposed to paid traffic is a great way, and that's a small test. So
it was a small test. That's why I said it was a test. It was a test. It was a small test.
Yeah. So let's jump back into to paid. So when we launched the Click Movement side of our business, invested $300,000 out of the gate. I was shuttering my agency business. It was making $80,000 to $100,000 consistently a month. And I'm like, all right, I can't do this anymore. I got to find something different. It wasn't a sellable business because it was all built around me and everything that I knew in my head and was doing it. So it wasn't like I had a sellable business. So really the only thing was to continue doing it or shut the thing down and build something new. So we shut it down, shuttered the business, and then launched the conservative side of the media company. And the goal was, all right, we're going to put $300,000 towards this. So I was like, all right, I wanted to accelerate the growth. And so we chose paid media, and we basically went in with, we bought email ads, ran Facebook ads, Google ads. We did some native ads. So we did a bunch of different testing, and that's where kind of the one-step funnel originated in regards to it. I wouldn't say it originated, but it perfected it for us. So that side of it, and the reason we went paid was because we had to replace, had $80,000 to $100,000 in income coming in every month in revenue, and I needed to replace that as fast as possible. So we launched the media company with paid ads by investing in it to get there quicker.
Okay.
Right. And so that's the difference between paid and organic, right? Is buying ads to accelerate your growth.
So when you're running those paid, I'm guessing you're running A/B testing. You're trying to find out what's working, what's not working. How many subscribers would you say you, off that 300,000?
So the way that we built it, we actually ended up, because we had some other kind of viral pieces built into it. So we ended up having 4 different lists that we built that were around 100,000 a piece. So under $1 per lead when it was all said and done. When we figured out one little cool strategy that allowed us to actually double our lead flow for the no extra money. And so that was a pretty nice strategy to uncover, or tactic to uncover. So that helped us grow pretty quick. And then wish I would have known it on day one. But
Would you figure it out on day 30?
Yeah, we figured it out when we were about $100,000 in already. But it was and with that we had a lot of that allowed us to go out to advertisers and start selling advertising space faster, right?
Okay.
Which then in turn started bringing money in. So after month 4, so we went from investing that $300,000, and then in month 4 we had $106,000 in revenue. So it allowed us to just move faster and grow the revenue top line quicker, right?
So paid ads is basically your fast forward button.
Yes.
So now organic. This is like, you need patience, I would say, and I don't have patience. So
Yeah.
I'd probably go the paid side. But organically, I've heard one that's very successful is Twitter threads. Mm-hmm. I think I'm subscribed to a newsletter where the guy literally grew it completely through Twitter threads.
Yep. Yeah, and so Twitter is a great organic method, right? So when I was coming over to build this out, when someone said organic to me, I'm like, I'm not doing SEO, right? That's what my mind always was, because I've come from a world of paid advertising, and how much can I pay and what do I acquire, right? So for me, when I started learning, and I'm starting to dive a little bit more into this, but Twitter, and there's quite a few success stories and case studies of people going and leveraging Twitter to be a thought leader and grow their newsletter, grow their brand over there, and then extract those followers into subscribers. Now, the people that are doing it on Twitter very successfully, there's also people that are doing and building their Instagram and their TikTok following organically, and then extracting those followers into subscribers. So organic is way different these days than what it used to be with SEO, right?
Correct.
So,
well, TikTok is a big one. You see, TikTok, there's people, you get on there for 10 days straight, you're posting something catches the algorithm, someone's attention a lot, and next thing you know, you go from 0 followers to 10,000 followers right off the bat.
Yep. And so because of that, you can now grow quick too. You can definitely grow quick over there, but your time's not being spent on optimizing an ad and a landing page. Your time's being spent on creating content, whatever medium that you're using, and pushing it out. And when you're spending that time on content, that is, it's sweat equity, right?
Okay.
It's sweat equity that you're putting in as opposed to, money.
Has there ever been a list that you've built organically that you say, this is a list I built organically, and not saying that it took off and had 200,000 subscribers, but you saw a good amount of traction organically on it?
No.
It's all been the paid.
We started doing that with Sports Bread, and then in less than one day, we've already, tripled our subscriber base.
Yeah.
So with paid, as we launched paid.
Exactly.
So paid traffic's my specialty. So really at the end of the day, when you're building your newsletter business, you kind of got to stick to what you're good at. I think when you're starting at, I'm just now getting into the organic side and testing this stuff, because there's case studies that I know are successful. So instead of me reinventing the wheel, I'm modeling the wheel that was already built for us to follow. And I'm actually specifically doing the organic side for Uncommon Advice, right? And trying to figure out how to bring more people back that way.
How to grow it that way. Well, and when we sit here and say pay, guys, we don't mean we just stick an ad and we run it. There's some research that goes behind it. I don't want you guys to sit down, watch this, and say, I'm going to throw out $300,000 into a Facebook ad and run it. No, there's research. That's a part of the process. And like I said, you can learn more. All you got to do is just join the group.
Yep. So it's a little bit different process. But, yeah, so for me, I think, the newsletter business, you can grow. There's multiple growth strategies, whether that be organic or paid. And then when you get into paid, there's all kinds of different, branches off of that. Organic, there's all kinds of branches off of that. We've covered a couple for you. Mm-hmm. Another one kind of quick tip is one thing that we use is an automated referral system. Will help. So that combining that with your paid as well will help you grow pretty quick too.
Yeah. Hey, there you go. But we're not going to say everything on here. You got to join the group.
No, you don't have to. You don't have to, but I'll tell you what, if you want to learn about the newsletter business, go over there. You will gain value from it.
He's being nice. You got to join it.
So I'm a little more nonchalant. So no worries. So let's get into, I want to get into some, I want to say a statement, a very important statement here that I posted over on Twitter that I think we can expand upon here that will have massive value, and it's very uncommon advice, I believe. And it's so listen to this here. How other people run their businesses isn't always a good indication of how you should run yours.
I agree with that because I've never owned a business, but I grew up with a family where my dad owns an HVAC distribution company, an assisted living facility, they have real estate and all that stuff. And he's said the same thing. He has buddies who also own HVAC distribution, and they run it a completely different way than he does. My dad has delivery services. They don't. My dad has different ways of discounts, different structures in place that when he goes into these, it's like, for him, it's like, what are you guys doing? But they probably look at his company and think the same thing, like, what are you doing? So growing up with parents who have been business owners, and I have been around it a lot, I 100% agree with that statement.
And going back to the solopreneur for entrepreneur piece, right? If you're a solopreneur and that's what your goal is, and your end game is different than the entrepreneur who's maybe trying to build something to exit. So you don't know the other person's, the other company's end game, and you don't know what's happening behind the scenes. You only see what's on the front page. So like big thing in the industry, in the marketing space for a long time was funnel hacking. People would really just go rip pages. They wouldn't study what's happening. They would just go, oh, I like that page. I'm going to steal it and copy it. And then they would copy it. They call it hacking. And no, that's stealing and copying, right? But it's copying. But that doesn't mean it's going to work for you because their back end and the way they operate their business and the things they do could be completely different than how your business operates.
Exactly.
So your goals for your business and your life, and then your business, actually is how we should say it, are completely different than somebody else's. So a story about this is one of my agency clients for many years. I was sitting in his office and we were talking one day and he got a phone call and the guy was telling him, man, you guys are just crushing it over there. You're killing it and all this other stuff. And yeah, the company's doing well, right? And thinking, you guys really got your shit together over there. And I just started chuckling because he had him on speaker. And he goes, I was behind the scenes of a lot of these big companies, so I knew what happened behind the scenes, right? And he gets off the phone and he looks at me and he knows why I chuckled and he was like, man, he goes, we're doing something right. We look right on the front. He goes, but it's chaos behind the scenes, And that's true. So there's a lot of times there's chaos behind the scenes that you don't know about, and you may not want that chaos in your business, but Correct. It works for that company.
And it's even how you start, because there's some people they're handed the success. Hey, like I said earlier, you're giving them money. There's some people you got to start with what you have, and you got to build from the ground up. You might be working out of your car, doing your deliveries. That's how my dad started the distribution company. He was doing his deliveries out of his car, literally trying to put a 4-ton unit in his I remember, what was it, 2014, 2015 Suburban, just throwing it in there by himself, no forklift, no nothing. But it's what you have, right? It's how you get started. You don't have the way of giving that money of, oh, I'm gonna go buy the forklift and the truck and have the nice warehouse and all that. Now he has the luxury to have that. But when you start, it's also, the story is different from the beginning. There's some people that's given and have the helping hand. There's some that they got to fight for until they get there. So everybody has a different journey into it. My question to you is, have you ever looked at a company, right? You being an entrepreneur, solo entrepreneur, look at a company, you're like, I want to do it just like them.
I have in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So this lesson was learned the hard way. And absolutely, I mean, there's times now I even go and I look at something, I'm like, man, that's badass. I really like how that's operating and doing. But the thing that I do different now than before, instead of trying to like be like that company and mimic what they're doing, what I do now is I look at, does that process work for our client journey when they're coming in? Does that make sense for us to implement that? But I've got years and years and years of experience of online marketing and business operations and all that, right? So I've been able to pull back and go, pretty cool what they're doing. It might be worth testing, but it's not worth rebuilding our entire business around.
But you you also have to stick at what you're good at,
Yes.
or what you do. Because I know we talked about it. You went on a journey with the coffee company, and we've spoken, and you're like, that's not what we do. And we've worked on going down on that, but it's like you said, it's not what we do. It's not what we're good at. We're good at generating leads, building audiences, generating traffic. That's what we're good at, and that's what we've stuck to. And we've been able to grow a little more successful as we've put more, I would say, more thought into that part of the business and trying to do things that it's not really what we do.
Yep. And so another prime example of this advice is I have a guy in this mastermind that I'm in. There's a guy in there that he grew his subscriber base all organically on Twitter, and he went from 0 to 400,000 subscribers in about 2 years, right? Which is a huge engaged subscribers, so that's huge, right? Whereas me, I didn't want to take 2 years, so but he didn't want to put the $300,000 into the business. I did because that's what I knew, that's what I was good at. I knew I could do it quicker. And that model for him and I, we built businesses, the similar newsletter style businesses, but we built them in two different manners.
Correct.
Now our goal, we were kind of similar to the end result of where we're going. And then it gave us the ability. He did it his way, I did it my way. So the biggest thing is like, you got to do business your way that works for you with your skill set, with the things that you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, because maybe if you would have tried to take in his path, you would not have been as successful. Because for what he was doing, you need patience, time. You got to probably be more active on social media and doing what he was doing. On your stuff is you need more money, right, to invest into it. So it's different paths, like you said. And if one of you try to copy the other's path, it might not have worked out.
Yep. If he went paid, he might have ended up banging his head against the wall and losing a bunch of money. If I go organic, I'm banging my head against the wall because I'm like, this isn't working.
Exactly.
For me,
when you look back to it, you saying that you looked at other companies and how they operate. Have you ever actually did you look in the inside of it, or was it always just the outside and see?
It's both. So there's companies that I would see their marketing that I knew nothing about, but I liked the marketing.
Gotcha.
Right. But I luckily knew that I needed to test those things, not change my business for them. Right. Or try and operate like them. But I've also being the hired gun that I was for these companies, these 7 and 8 figure companies, I was behind the scenes of what they were doing.
What was your reaction when you got back there?
Oh man. I mean, it made me feel normal. So, because everything is a little bit chaotic, and the entrepreneur themselves can be hyper emotional or super calm, right? I mean, entrepreneurs have different personalities, and those usually shine within the decision making of the business they're running, right? And kind of how the behind the scenes work. So, I mean, there's, that's how their business ran. I was just there to kind of help and drive it and grow it,
Oh man,
I learned a lot of lessons of how I didn't want to run my company, and I learned a lot of lessons on what to do. So there's a guy. So one of my clients back in the day, and my client hired this guy, Eddie, and Eddie and I kind of butted heads because he came in as an operational guy. I was running all the marketing stuff. My agency was running the marketing stuff, and we would butt heads. But come down to it, I sent him a message like 2 years ago. I was like, man, I appreciate some of these lessons I learned from you. But he came in and took that company and cleaned a lot up and was super smart operationally. and putting systems in place and encouraging team members and, you know, making sure the team was all the right butts in the right seats, right? Mm-hmm. And so I learned a lot from him, and I sent him a message, you know, not that long ago of just like, hey, man, thank you. You know, I appreciate that time we got to work together on this project because I learned a lot from you. So I think it's just a random story, but I think there's a lot of moments like that where I took lessons from people within those companies, because to be 7-8 figure companies, you got people.
Oh yeah,
a lot of times, right?
A lot of people probably.
So especially at the 8-figure mark, so you start dealing with a lot of different people and learning lessons, and there's leadership structure, and you're learning that. So there's a lot to learn, and I've always liked to learn and figure things out. You know, my younger years, I knew everything until I realized I didn't.
And you worked in a lot of industries, right? You worked in real estate, you worked products, you worked in
products, real estate, coaching, consulting, fitness. All, so
you
know, a lot of
experienced it all and
yeah.
see what each one, the back scenes of it and all that. Yep. So, hey, that's all been a great learning lesson for you to be able to get to where you are. But
so to sum that all up, you know, just how some business operates doesn't mean that's how your business needs to operate. So that is it.
Yeah, don't go try to run like Coca-Cola now. It's
like, yeah, right.
Like I know people that they've seen, and I've done it myself, where I see these big companies like, oh, I'm going to be there one day. It's like, maybe I'll be there one day, but it's not going to be doing what they're doing, right? Like, hopefully we get there one day, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. We will. We'll get there our way.
Exactly. But hey, guys, make sure to like, subscribe. Again, we do this for you guys. Give knowledge on it. Like Nate said, I was messing earlier, but it's not a hard sell. But if you do want the knowledge of being a solo entrepreneur or how to grow a newsletter, join his group on Facebook. Like I said, he's posting daily. He's giving great knowledge, and there's a lot of engagement and questions being asked that you guys can take from it. So I think we're out.
All right. Appreciate it.
To the next one.
Hey, listen to this. Might have to take the uncommon advice.